It's wonderful to escape from being stressed by her wedding. These are the kind of posts I would end up seeing from my family members who didn't show up to my wedding. My relationship with my family has always been awkward. When I stepped into my family home one day, the conversation in the living room where my family was relaxing suddenly stopped. My brother Benjamin and his wife Camila exchanged meaningful glances, and my mother Diana put on a stiff smile. "Oh, Eliza, you're unusually early today," my mother said. "Is work finished?" I let out a small sigh. "Yes, I finished early today. I wanted to have dinner at home." My father Victor snorted without looking up from his newspaper. "All a miracle. Our lawyer deigns to look up from her law books." "Dad," as I was about to speak, Benjamin interrupted. "Eliza, tell me about your meeting this morning. Did you sue another company?" He then explained to his wife Camila, "Eliza only talks about numbers. She has a special talent for ruining the mood at parties." Camila laughed softly. "That's right. At the last holiday party, she went on and on about contract clauses. Half of the guests left. I tried to make an excuse but gave up. Conversations with my family were always like this." At the dinner table, Benjamin's children were running around. Camila was enthusiastically talking about summer vacation plans, and my father and mother occasionally nodded. Even when I tried to avoid work topics and have a normal conversation, silence quickly fell. "Eliza is always too serious," Camila interjected. "You should learn to have a little fun. Life isn't just about work." Benjamin made an exaggerated gesture toward his children. "Look, kids, don't be like your aunt. Always work, work, work. She even forgets how to smile." The children laughed innocently, and I lowered my eyes to my glass of water. They should have known that I was helping with their living expenses, this despite me paying for my own law school tuition and building my own career. But in their eyes, I was just the boring, serious eldest daughter. That night, as I was leaving, my father unusually called out to me. "By the way, about the cost of Benjamin's birthday party next month, you'll help out a bit, won't you?" I nodded quietly. My relationship with my family was always like this. My value of existence was proportional to the thickness of my wallet, but the day would come when my family's attitude would change dramatically. This mess started about 2 months ago. My father, Victor, began acting strange whenever conversations about my upcoming wedding came up. He wasn't acting strange in a bad way, but he was certainly secretive in a suspicious way. Whispering on the phone, closing his laptop when I walked into his office, that sort of thing. My sister-in-law Camila started giving me these little smiles and saying stuff like, "Eliza, you're going to love what we're planning for your big day." Even my brother Benjamin, who's usually too absorbed in his investment banking work to care about family stuff, was dropping hints. I'm not going to lie, it got me excited. "Your wedding is supposed to be a milestone, right?" My family wasn't wealthy, and I was independent, so I wasn't expecting anything extravagant. All the secrecy had me thinking maybe they were planning an amazing bridal shower or rehearsal dinner. My father kept telling me to be patient whenever I tried to fish for details. To be honest, I was surprised that my family showed interest in my marriage. I'm planning to have a family dinner to introduce my fiancé. "You absolutely have to come, Dad," I insisted over the phone a month ago. "Of course, Eliza," my father answered. "I'll definitely come if work finishes early." However, on the promised day, he sent me a message. "I'm sorry, but I forgot I had a golf appointment with my friend Bob. Let's meet on the wedding day." I sighed. This wasn't the first time. My father always prioritized his work and hobbies over important events in my life. And so, the dinner with my fiancé got canceled due to my father's scheduling conflict. On my wedding day, no one was at the venue. I couldn't see my family anywhere. Mom, Dad, Benjamin, Camila, Adrian, and Sophia, none of them had come. I stood there in my dress, holding my bouquet, staring at the empty rows. Something might have happened, I thought, and called my father on my cell phone. It got rejected. The same thing happened when I called my mother. I sent texts to Benjamin and Camila, but there was no reply. James, my husband-to-be, squeezed my hand. His calm eyes reassured me. "Eliza, don't worry. Something must have happened. They wouldn't intentionally not come," he said. James's suit was tailor-made, and his gentle smile was just for me. His parents looked concerned, but James was decisive, and we decided to proceed with the ceremony as planned. Feeling the absence of my family, I said, "I do," in front of the empty rows. James's hand firmly held mine, and the look in his eyes told me that I was enough, even without my family. The wedding was still completed successfully without my family. However, I couldn't sit still thinking about them. After returning to our new home with James after the ceremony, I remembered I actually have an Instagram account. I don't post much, I just follow my family members' accounts to check on their lives sometimes. And there it was, posted 3 hours earlier, a photo of my entire family: Dad, Benjamin, Camila, Mom, Adrian, and Sophia, all smiling in front of a medieval chateau, wine glasses raised, at an exclusive French estate. Benjamin had captioned it, "The perfect family vacation without her." The comments made my blood boil. Dad replied with, "She's too busy anyway," and a laughing emoji. Camila added something about career-obsessed women not appreciating family traditions. Mom commented, "It's wonderful to escape from being stressed by her wedding." She was there in the photos, looking completely relaxed in her designer sunglasses. James held me tightly. Looking at the photos together, he seemed unable to contain his anger. "I can't believe they would do this," he frowned. "Eliza, this shows how little they value you." "But I'm different. You mean everything to me." He sat beside me and gently stroked my hair as he saw my trembling hands hold a glass. "No one has the right to hurt you. You're an amazing person. I'm lucky to be able to see what they don't deserve to see." His words were comforting, but the pain in my heart didn't disappear. I sat there for I don't know how long, my throat tight, just scrolling through more photos they'd posted. Vineyard tours, river cruises, family portraits, all time stamped and geo-tagged to a chateau I'd never even heard of, starting 2 days earlier. I don't know what kicked in: shock, rage, or some weird sense of calm, but I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't comment on the photos. Just poured another glass of champagne with my trembling hands and started thinking hard. James brought hot chocolate from the kitchen and sat next to me. He gave me advice on gathering evidence from his perspective as a company executive. "In situations like this, it's important to act based on facts rather than being swept away by emotions," he said. "As an excellent lawyer, you probably understand, but now we need to keep records of everything from a legal perspective." He took out his tablet and logged into the company's internal system. "I shouldn't really be showing you this," he said hesitantly. "This is your father's activity record at our company. It shows how his decisions have negatively impacted us." At that moment, I realized for the first time that he wasn't just an executive, but at the top level of the company. The access to the information he showed me was not something a normal executive would have. "James, are you?" He smiled slightly. Yes, I was recently promoted. It's not officially announced yet, but I've become your father's direct superior. Actually, I've become the CEO. I was surprised, but he quickly added, but there's something more important right now, and that's to protect you. I can't allow them to treat you like this. His kindness and determination gave me strength. The first thing I did was to check the bank account that I've been using to support my family's living expenses. As expected, $400 was transferred to my father's personal account last Friday. I scrolled back through older social media posts and found out Mom had been making comments about a special family retreat for weeks. So this wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. Planned without me. Planned around me. Planned despite my wedding. By midnight, my hurt had transformed into white-hot determination. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything: screenshots of posts, financial transfers, a timeline of the lies they'd told me about wedding surprises. I rarely cry, but I felt hot tears burning behind my eyes. Not sad tears, angry ones. "What do you think we should do now?" I asked James while looking at the computer. "First, let's prepare to protect yourself legally. Then, when the time comes, we'll show them the truth. But for now, let's rest. Tomorrow will be a long day." He put his arm around my shoulder and led me to the bedroom. 3 days after the wedding, I suddenly received messages from my family. Dad texted asking if I was upset about something. Camila called twice. Benjamin sent a message saying, "Dad's getting worried. Can you just respond?" I didn't answer. Instead, I posted my first Instagram photo in months, just me at my apartment with wedding sample decorations I'd selected myself. No caption, no tags, just a date stamp. That's when the flood began. At exactly 9:44 p.m., my phone exploded with notifications. Message after message came. Dad was in complete panic mode. Benjamin actually sounded concerned for once. Camila sent voice messages that grew increasingly desperate. By midnight, I counted 290 messages across all platforms: texts, WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, emails, even voicemails. The last one from Dad just said, "We're coming back tomorrow. We need to talk." James was sitting next to me in the living room, watching my expression with concern. Actually, James made his move the day after our wedding. He woke up early that day, and after taking a shower, he quietly made a phone call in the corner of the living room. I was still in bed, just waking up from the previous day's fatigue. I noticed that his tone was different from usual. It was businesslike and calm, yet it had an unwavering strength. "Yes, Victor," I heard James's voice. "The decision remains unchanged. From Monday, you will be transferred to the regional branch. Your future will be considered based on your performance there." I was fully awake the moment I heard him say my father's name. Jumping out of bed and heading to the living room, I saw James holding the phone with a serious expression. He saw me, gave a small nod, and continued the call. "No, this is not personal. It's purely a matter of performance and compliance," he said calmly. "Your department has failed to meet targets for 3 consecutive quarters. Furthermore, there have been violations of the company's ethics code." The voice from the phone grew louder. It sounded like my father was shouting. James remained calm and switched the phone to speaker mode. "You don't have the authority." My father's voice echoed throughout the room. "I've supported this company for 20 years. You're just a Victor," James calmly interrupted. "I was officially appointed as the CEO 3 months ago. All personnel decisions are within my authority." After a moment of silence, my father's voice changed. This time it was mixed with fear. "Wait, James. There must be some misunderstanding." I was just. "You skipped a family wedding to go on a European vacation," James said sternly. "Our company upholds the value of cherishing family. You failed to uphold even that basic principle." "Wedding?" My father's voice sounded confused. "What wedding?" James looked at me, his expression softening slightly. "Eliza's wedding. Your daughter's." On the other end of the phone, something fell. Then my mother's voice was heard from a distance. "Victor, what happened?" "Eliza's wedding? Why would?" My father sounded completely shocked. James reached out to me, and I sat next to him. "I am James Ryan, your superior and your son-in-law." After a complete silence, frantic voices were heard from the phone. It seemed like my father was hurriedly explaining something to my mother. Benjamin's voice could also be heard in the background. They were clearly agitated. But my father returned to the phone, his voice now trembling. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "That Eliza and you, I didn't know. We sent the invitations 3 months ago. I spoke for the first time." There was no response. "I also called Mom to confirm, but was told you were busy." "Eliza." My father gasped. "You were there. Listen, this is all a misunderstanding. We were just on vacation. I didn't know your fiancé was James, or that he was my boss." At that moment, there was a sudden movement on the other end of the phone, and we could hear Benjamin's voice. "James, Eliza, listen. We learned in Europe that Dad was being demoted. Everyone was upset, and we tried to contact you, but you canceled my wedding," I said in an icy voice. "You didn't think about the most important event in my life at all." "Eliza," my mother started speaking. "We were just enough," James said before hanging up. "Victor, I expect a report from the regional branch on Monday." When the call ended, I buried my face in my knees. James sat beside me and put his arm around my shoulders. "Honestly, I didn't think your father wouldn't recognize me. He had met me in board meetings and should have known I was a member of the management team. I guess he really didn't consider you in his life at all, Eliza." Paul's words pierced my heart. My father couldn't even remember my fiancé's face. 3 hours later, our smartphones kept ringing. 290 desperate messages from my father, mother, Benjamin, and Camila. They suddenly realized my importance because my husband had the power to affect their livelihood. "What are you going to do?" James asked, gently stroking my shoulder. "I'll ignore them," I said with determination. "Just as they ignored my wedding, I'll ignore their messages." James smiled slightly and kissed me. I finally understood. They didn't even know who my fiancé was. In the past, I felt like I was only a supporting character for my family. But now I have finally become the protagonist. And with my partner James, I was ready to start a new life. I've been loyal to my family for years. Never once have I deliberately ignored my father when he needed legal help. We spent that evening building my legal protection strategy. I called my bank and removed my family members' access to my accounts. Around midnight, I discovered an email thread between Dad and Benjamin from 2 weeks earlier. "Dad, should we even tell Eliza about the France trip?" "Benjamin, why bother? She'll just worry about her wedding." "Dad, true LOL. It's not like she ever focuses on anything but legal matters anyway." "Benjamin, she probably won't notice we're gone until after her wedding." "Dad, I think you're right. LOL." That was the moment something inside me crystallized. I'd been holding on to a tiny hope that maybe everything was just a big misunderstanding. But that email destroyed it. On the day they were supposed to return, I was waiting in my apartment. James said he had work and promised to join me in the evening. At 4:32 p.m., I heard multiple voices in the elevator of my building. The wheels of suitcases rolled on marble and the intercom rang. I slowly responded. When I opened the door, there was an unnatural scene of jet-lagged, exhausted faces forcing cheerful smiles. My father was clutching a gift bag that had obviously not been in his original luggage. "Eliza," my father said in a forcefully bright voice. "Why didn't you answer the phone? I wanted to ask you about my job." I stared at them with a cold expression. My mother looked apologetic, and Camila was staring at the floor. Only Benjamin hadn't completely abandoned his somewhat arrogant attitude. As tense conversation began at the doorway, the elevator doors opened again, and James appeared. Wearing a suit, his expression was stern when he saw my father. "Victor," he said calmly. My father's face was drained of color. "James," he choked. "Is it true what was written in that email? Are you together?" James stood next to me and put his arm around my shoulder. "Victor, I am Eliza's husband. The wedding was 4 days ago. You were invited, but it seems you prioritize your vacation in France." My father's face was twisted with fear and confusion. "Eliza, is he really my company CEO?" I said calmly. "Yes, he is. But you know what? You chose traveling over my wedding. And now you've come to complain about James demoting you?" Benjamin stepped forward. "Eliza, listen. We didn't know your fiancé was actually Dad's boss. Otherwise, that has to be a blatant lie," I said firmly. "James' promotion was decided last month. His name was circulating in the company emails. The reason you know nothing about my fiancé is because you have no interest in my life." My father said in a trembling voice, "Eliza, we're family." "Family helps each other, right?" James calmly said. "Victor, someone who doesn't value family has no right to talk about family." As those words echoed in the hallway, complete silence fell. My father's shoulders slumped, and despair spread across his face. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, letting out an uncontrollable sob. Even Benjamin lost his usual arrogance and dropped his gaze to the floor. "I notified you when you were in France last week," James continued calmly. "Employees who don't value family are not needed in the company. You are to be demoted to a rural subsidiary. It was only after you received that notice that you suddenly started to care about your daughter's wedding." Camila said in a small voice, "We didn't know." Victor suddenly said we had to go back. James looked at her, his expression softening slightly. "Please leave now. Eliza has been hurt enough." My father took a step back and dropped the gift bag. Its contents were scattered on the floor, but no one tried to pick them up. My crying mother grabbed my father's arm and pulled him toward the elevator. "Eliza," Benjamin said finally. "Can I talk? Get out," I said quietly but firmly. They slumped their shoulders and hung their heads as they entered the elevator. The last scene visible through the closing doors was my father's devastated expression and my mother's tear-soaked face. Benjamin was supporting Camila, who was crying like a child. When the door closed, James gently embraced me. "Are you okay?" he asked kindly. "I'm fine," I answered. "I'm no longer an invisible presence. That's all I need. Looking out the window, I could see them walking through the lobby with heavy steps toward a taxi. My father no longer looked arrogant, he just looked like an old man. Watching them get into the taxi and drive away in the rain, I felt true freedom for the first time. 1 month after the wedding, their situation had visibly deteriorated. James and I were having coffee at the breakfast table, discussing my father's situation. On James' laptop was my father's performance report, and the numbers were harsh. He only lasted 2 weeks at the regional branch, James said quietly. He was late every day, and even fell asleep in meetings. Yesterday, he formally submitted his resignation. I picked up my coffee cup and stared at the steam, as expected. James took my hand. "Do you regret it?" "No," I shook my head. "They made their choices. I just made mine." As we were preparing to go to work after breakfast, my new phone rang. It was my mother's number. After exchanging glances with James, I answered on speaker mode. "Eliza, please listen." My mother's voice sounded tired and thin. "Your father quit his job. We're financially struggling. We can't make our mortgage payments, and our credit card debt is growing. Could you help us a little?" James silently looked at me, nodding slightly to indicate that he was leaving this decision to me. "How much do you need?" I asked calmly. "About $3,000 this month," my mother said in a small voice. "It's temporary. Your father will find a new job soon." I struggled to contain my laughter. $3,000. Almost exactly the same amount as their luxury hotel bill in France. "Tell me honestly why you need the money," I said. "I told you, mortgage and the real reason," I interrupted her. "What is father trying to do after James demoted him?" After a long silence, my mother sighed. "He has contacted a competitor. He's planning to sell confidential information from James' company. We need money for a lawyer." I could see James's expression hardening. He quickly began taking notes and gestured that he would contact the legal department. "I see," that was all I said. "Mom, you just admitted to conspiracy in corporate espionage and industrial spying. This call is being recorded. Eliza." My mother gasped. "How could you record a family conversation?" "How ironic," I said coldly. "A family who chose traveling over my wedding is now bringing up family." That evening, James and I were drinking wine on the penthouse balcony, gazing at the city lights. He put his arm around my shoulder and pulled me close. "What do you think?" I asked. "Do you think they'll give up?" "They have nothing left to lose," James said quietly. "That's the most dangerous kind of person." 2 days later, I received a direct call from my father. "Eliza," his voice was strangely calm. "I need some financial assistance." "It's temporary. I'll pay it back soon." James and I were listening on speakerphone again. He had already contacted a lawyer and started preparing a restraining order. "How much do you need?" I asked. $5,000, he said without hesitation. As family, as a daughter, helping out that much is only natural, right? I looked at James. He just shook his head. "Dad, do you understand how dangerous the gamble you're taking is?" I asked quietly. James took everything from me. He suddenly shouted. "My position, my dignity, even my daughter. He should be punished. Your problem has always been that you're self-centered," I said. "I am not a thing, not a possession to be taken. I made my own choices. Did you know he was the CEO?" My father said in a trembling voice. "Did you marry him knowing he was my boss?" "I married him knowing who he is," I answered. because he is kind, honest, and respects me. Things you never showed me." The phone went silent and was then disconnected. The next morning, the news was shocking. My father had been arrested for compliance violations and attempted sale of corporate secrets. According to a report from the company's security, my mother and Camila were crying at home. "What should I have done?" I asked James. "I could have stopped them." James touched my cheek and said gently, "Eliza, these were their choices, not your responsibility." That afternoon, I formally applied for a restraining order through my lawyer against my parents, Benjamin and Camila. I couldn't let those who were destroying their own lives to destroy mine as well. "You forgot my existence," I wrote in my final email. "Now it's my turn to forget yours." From that day, I created a new phone number, a new email address, and a new beginning. James supported me throughout the process, and at night he held me in his arms and whispered, "You're not alone. I am your family." 6 months later, we bought a new house. A beautiful house by the lake, away from the city's hustle and bustle. James successfully reorganized the company, and I was promoted to chief legal officer. The only traces of my former family were the occasional documents from the court. The demands for gifts from Adrian and Sophia were gone, and I was free. The family bonds were broken, but James and I were building a new family. A family where I was visible. Every night after dinner, James and I would drink wine and talk about future plans, and once a month we would have dinner with James' parents and dream about our own family. And sometimes, his casual words gave me a sense of security I had never experienced before. "You are my everything, Eliza."